This is episode 4 of Made for This with Laurel Kassor, the podcast where kindred spirits converge to experience firsthand how astrology turns from abstract insight to real-world impact when you follow your soul's arc. Every episode of this show serves as a living case study where I get down with soul-led practitioners, educators, and creatives to connect the constellations between their lived reality and their soul's syllabus. I'm Laurel Kassor, your Astro Oracle host and founder of Soul Arc Astrology, and today I am blessed enough to sit down with the Veronica Dietz, host of the Aligned Edit podcast. Veronica is a business advisor, brand architect, and founder of both Taiki Digital Agency and VD Advisory Group. She helps founders identify what the misalignments are in their business, refine the structure, and make clean decisions that kickstart their growth. Her work blends strategy, pattern recognition, psychology, and damn near psychic skills to pinpoint invisible issues that keep you spinning. Veronica, you are a diva of discernment. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh my gosh, thank you. I'm so excited. I wanted you to do this podcast for so long, and now it's here. I'm so happy.
Gosh. Now it's here. Yes, full disclosure, everyone. Veronica's my brand strategist. And maybe like a week ago, she was like, you just need to do it. Just do it. Just go for it. And so this is me going for it live in your ears right now.
Love it.
So Veronica, I'm super familiar with your work. I think you're brilliant. I'm 4 years into my entrepreneurial journey. I've worked with a lot of coaches, but none of them have been able to pick up exactly what I'm putting down as swiftly and effectively as you have, like right out of the gate. And I'm a real multidimensional bitch. So
yeah, you are.
Pumped to get into your story and understand, how did you become the fucking discernment diva that you are?
I mean, the truth is I was born this way. That's what we're going to talk about. Like, I was just born this way, but it took years and years of learning to believe in myself and my intuition, and not believe in myself in a sense that I needed confidence. It was more of trusting that gut, trusting that intuition, trusting those downloads to be downloads. It took a lot of healing to realize that all the answers were always right there inside of me, even the ones that you and the people I speak to were seeking. It just was inside of me, and I just had to pull it out and trust it.
Trust, baby. Oh my gosh, that's so beautiful. I can't wait to hear the journey of developing that sort of trust, because it's not an easy task at all. And I can see it begins very early in your journey. So we're going to start by doing this like little thing I do. I have this technique that was taught to me. It looks like some of your, I like to call them plot points. One of your earliest plot points that is indicated in your birth chart. It starts with your sun, actually. And so before we go any further, Veronica is a Virgo sun, a Leo moon, and a Virgo rising.
Yes,
so Veronica, it looks like around maybe 1 years old or so. This might be too far back, but around 1 year old, it looks like there was a very formative event that would have happened that would have potentially had to do with several possible things. But the sun, especially for early childhood, tends to represent father. So sometimes that can be what it shows up as, but it would definitely have something to do with like confidence or decisions that were being made. Things being on display somehow. I would love to hear if there's anything that like comes to mind, a story that maybe you heard there, because it looks like that is a really essential first plot point for you.
I do have one of my earliest memories at that age, but also, fun fact, I did not speak until almost 3 years old. I was nonverbal.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and my second sister was born when I was 18 months, so just about a year and a half. I already had a little sister, and I was nonverbal. My first 12 months, I had almost every sickness and illness a child could get. I had a very young mother. My parents were, I think, 18 and 28 when they had me, but they took me everywhere. I went everywhere. I was already traveling Europe by the time I was 1 year old, but my father specifically lost me in the waves in the ocean.
Oh my God.
Yes.
You're going to lose your shit when I tell you the rest of the why I picked out this aspect.
And I have the most vivid memory of that experience, which is I find unusual, and I can't tell if I just made up that memory from hearing the story or if it was just so traumatic it's been instilled into my brain. But I just remember the feeling of losing his hand. I remember the waves pulling me. I remember the swirling in the ocean waves and what the bubbles looked like. And I remember gasping for air when I got up. And it all happened, of course, very quickly. But I remember my father's version is just like, he just kept thinking, how am I going to tell my wife I lost our child in the water? So I grew up in Orange County, California, born and raised on the beach. Like, that's my thing. I was never really afraid of the ocean, but I always have that visual memory of being torn from my father in the waves. And that happened when I was 1.
I'm going to lose it. Okay.
This is why we love astrology.
This is why we love astrology. You cannot make this up. I did not know you were going to share that story. This is crazy.
In fact, that wasn't the story I was going to originally share, but then it just came out right now.
Okay, let me stop gasping for reality. Obviously, your sun is the first planet, which is why I picked it out, and that's why I like to start at these formative plot points. But what caught my eye the most about your sun in your birth chart, your sun's in Virgo, it is exactly, perfectly, we call this partile. It's partile, your Neptune in Sagittarius in the 4th house. This is so tremendously literal. I can't even express it to you. Let's break this down. The sun represents father. We mentioned that, okay? The square aspect that is your sun is making this connection to, it represents a friction, a tension. This particular one is a waning square. So it has something to do with there being pressure, there being big tension, can feel like rules, can feel like denial, can feel like it's kind of got a Saturn/Capricorn undertone to it. And it's in a tense, conflicting position with Neptune, king of the ocean, literally, mythologically, the fucking god of the ocean.
Yeah.
Okay. It is Neptune, and it is Neptune in Sagittarius. So you mentioned the traveling, right? Sagittarius is a traveling thing, but the wild water is what it's giving me. It's like giving me a lot of like wild, fierce, because, you know, Sagittarius is a fire sign. It's it's like can't be bound, it can't be tethered, neither can Neptune. So just being like taken and swept away from your father, right? In the literal ocean. And then his version of the story is like, how the fuck was I going to tell my wife? Your Neptune's in the 4th house. So there's, of course, this familial dynamic to it already. But there's such a double edge to this because, yes, that might have been one of the very first early formative experiences of like a very physical, traumatic event for sure. But it also, Neptune is the planet that has so much to do with psychicism and channeling and mysticism and the ethers and the source energy and like the ocean of consciousness too, which is an echo we're going to come back to a little bit later in the chart because it gets prominent with some of your other important placements. But it's really interesting because what that would have done is like set some sort of template very, very early around, yes, father, and rules and following rules and safety and the unexpected forces of the world that can just out of nowhere kind of snatch you away from what you know.
Yeah.
And how this energy also doubles to creation energy and self-confidence and ego and pride and decision making too, where it's like you can think you're making all the right decisions, but your dad didn't mean to lose you, right? And yet some greater force, unstoppable, uncontrollable force can come and take that safety away, sweep it right away. So
yeah,
that was really exciting for me. Thank you for letting me interpret that for you. How does that hit? How does that
100%
for you?
100%. And what I heard, and I don't think you emphasized enough, is that I did go through that insanely traumatic ocean experience, but I never stopped going into the ocean. I never stopped approaching waves. I never stopped swimming deep. I actually was a swimmer for many years in my childhood and teens, but I embraced it. I feel like from a very early moment, I embraced the unknown and the uncertainty and the chaos of those crazy waves and just life in general. Like just there's that safety that like your father's holding you, you're safe in the water, and then being ripped away. I learned so quickly, like there are no guarantees. So like there's any moment something shitty can happen. You never know.
Wow. I mean, that's really incredible. And it's just such a testament to like, because when you were 1, there's no way you could have had the sophisticated understanding of what was happening, right? It was a literal instinctual, raw survival essence, energy that your body and your mind and your consciousness would have only been able to operate within that bound. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays forward, because it will play. It's your sun. It's like connected to literally directly how you self-validate, what you create, what you shine your attention upon. And it connects also to kind of like this, like I said earlier, like you're damn near fucking psychic, if not actual psychic, and embracing the trust. Like that has so much to do with what you said in the opening, right away, like right away. Also really interesting too, I just want to point out that undertone of the sun to that square to Neptune is literally saying, hey, we got to find a way to structure what we create in the midst of all of this. Anything can happen, right? Anything is possible, and create a safe space for that to happen. I know I've experienced firsthand, like you are able to make a safe space in which we can explore the scary depth of details of making a vision real, of validating what's possible.
My gosh, yes. I'm thinking like right now when I was sharing about our group chat, I was like, that's exactly what I just did for our friends in our chat. I literally just did the same thing.
100. It's what you do all day long. That's one of the biggest points I hope to illustrate over time with this podcast is like, you were made for this. You just haven't looked at it through the right fractal lens. Yeah, you've been doing this stuff the whole time. You were in this energetic spectrum your entire life, and now you've just found new ways to experience it. So that's a huge event that you were not even fully aware for. Wow. What else I want to point out about that sun showing up so early, and one of the ways that you had introduced that time in your life, your sun is in a waxing trine to your Ceres. And so Ceres is in your ninth house. In solar astrology, we treat Ceres as the planetary force of pillar 2 value. And that is the pillar that has Taurus and the second house and the waxing semisextile aspect. And so when you have Ceres in Taurus, we're turning up the volume on making things real, on making things tangible, on bringing a denseness to, specifically for you, ninth house topics, which of course include travel.
Hell yeah.
Okay. And so like as a baby, you can only experience your own patterns at the level at which a baby would be able to. So like having parents, father again is connected to son, having parents who literally could actualize the travel, with the earth energy there and actually take you physically to places to expand you. So even from the very beginning, you were also getting
so
expansion energy. Before you were moving, you were traveling, there was different people, different places, different sounds, different smells all over the place.
Really was. And that was the only time period I was an only child. It's that like first year and a half. So the fact that I was able to travel so much and experience so many things with my parents was really foundational for me. We traveled a lot even as we grew up and I had sisters and such, but it was definitely incredible to hear all of the places and things that happened just within that first year. Because it's like, who does that with their baby? Like I didn't with either of my kids. I'm not going anywhere. This is the most exhausting, tiring year, especially for first-time parents. But they were out there taking me everywhere.
Wow. It's so interesting to see how it melds and gels into the being. That is so cool. So let's fast forward in time a little bit, because there's only so much we can milk out of 1-year-old Veronica's awareness. So let's fast forward in time a little bit. There's a lot that happens after the ocean extravaganza. I'm going to bring us into pillar 3, okay? This is a really important energy that is coursing through your chart and through your work. And so this is really going to be a cool opportunity to open up about more of like the journey to get there. But one of the first early formative experiences I see that is happening around this pillar 3, which is the transmission pillar, is that you have Saturn in Scorpio here. It is in your 3rd house. The 3rd house is the house associated with the 3rd pillar. Bump, right? And one of the topics of that transmission pillar, that kind of echo pillar, is siblings, right? So you mentioned your siblings coming in. And so Saturn is in Scorpio in the 3rd house. It is also in an exact, also partile, a fun word we're learning today, exact sextile to your Mercury. who we're going to probably spend a lot of time
Yeah.
discussing Mercury. But this is our kind of our first introduction to some of this energy and how you would have experienced it and integrated it in. Let me just like name off a few things and you can kind of take it from there around these formative experiences. But Saturn in Scorpio in the third house would indicate to us something around responsibilities, around our siblings. Hello, low
Yeah.
hanging fruit. But with the Scorpio essence, there's also a degree of extremity attached to it. There is kind of an intensity attached to this. And let me give you the age
Yeah, go
range
for it.
that I think we're looking at around here. So we're talking about like your 5th birthday. We're talking about like having to take on some sort of big fat responsibility that might have also been very scary. Scorpio, especially during the child mind phase of awareness, it can manifest as shadowy things or scary things. It has an affiliation with pillar 8, the alchemy pillar associated with Scorpio, of course, and Pluto and the 8th house and quincunx. So is there anything around that time that was going on where there was like responsibility or boundaries or rules or denial? It's a heavy-ish energy.
Oh my God. Okay. Well, let's see. You're saying 5 years old. So we are talking 1989, which means I already have two sisters and one again, 18 months from me. And then the next one is 4 years apart from me. So my parents have their hands full. We got three of us. And I'm also nonverbal for the first few years, which means they are ready to put me in kindergarten. A lot's happened. First of all, I don't know what the dealio is, but my mother allowed me and sat me down for movies like Killer Clowns from Outer Space, Child's Play, Dolls. Like, she loves a good scary movie, but I do not. And she would have me watch these movies, and someone with that age has a wild imagination, and especially me. So I did not.
You already have, I mean, I don't mean to interrupt here, but you already have the sun exactly square
Yeah.
Neptune. As a fellow sun square Neptune
Yeah.
person, it is an overactive
100%. And I
imagination.
could live without a scary movie. Like, I'll enjoy one once in a while, but I could live my whole life without ever seeing a scary movie. I find life scary enough. But yeah, so I already had like a lot of weird things happening in my lifestyle. And I do remember having to be responsible and be the good girl and help out. And that's a lot to expect of someone who's only 5. I mean, you're 5 years old. My son is 11 and it's too much pressure to ask him to pick up his own underwear. Like, so, I mean, there was a really high standard and expectation for me very early on. Yeah. I know that my mom put me into kindergarten after preschool, but kindergarten's like your first like big school establishment. And I didn't know my last name. I didn't know where I lived. I didn't know my phone number. I didn't know my mom's last name. I didn't know my mom's name. Like, I didn't know anything, but I'm Veronica. And I remember getting on a school bus because I didn't know what else to do like after school. And the school bus just kept driving around until all the stops were done. I'm like, well, where do you live, honey? I was like, in a house, like with my mom. Like, I didn't know anything. So it became a whole thing. And my mom, I mean, from there on, she taught her kids before they went to kindergarten and such. But it was just, there was a lot of expectation of me. I was I don't want to say I was overlooked, but maybe that is the word. But there was just a lot. I was like a third parent. Like, I was expected to live as an adult in this little tiny 5-year-old body where this is my first time here, guys. I don't know what I'm doing.
Absolutely. One of the ways that I describe kind of like this first several years of childhood is like it is the first rodeo. It is 100% your first rodeo, and you do not know the rules or what the fuck a horse is.
Yeah. Or your name, apparently, for
Yeah, and
me.
you're learning your patterns for the first time. That's why these plot points end up being very formative. And we did skip over a couple of them here. So there was other stuff happening in that early formative time period. But certainly everything you just named is highbrow Saturn expectations and standards and the mature, what do they call it? The adultification.
Adultification for sure.
Adultification. And I also, as you were speaking, I let in with siblings because I knew that was likely already going to be a very relevant part of the story. But of course, early childhood schooling is another piece of the pillar 3 puzzle, and certainly this space, this third house space. So the starting kindergarten is exactly it. And that moment would have solidified that you were in ready for success. You were not poised for success at that time. And whether you were hyper aware of it or not, as again, a little child, that is potentially one of the big takeaways that early experience around school and around learning.
I would say that was a continuous theme throughout my entire childhood growing up. I was never prepared for success. No one ever talked to me about any of these things. I couldn't read until third grade. I was held back twice in second because no one sat down and read a book with me. So yeah, there was never a preparation on what success looks like, what you have to do to execute it, what's expected of you. It was always just throw her in, see what happens.
It's like the ocean all over again. You've
Yeah.
said a couple of things since where I'm like, oh, there's the Neptune coming through. Oh,
Yep.
there's Neptune coming through. I can't do that all the time or else people would put socks in my mouth and tell me to shut the fuck up. But there's a couple of other things about this Saturn. Yes, this Saturn does make its first aspect to your Mercury. So we're 100% about to talk about that. It's actually going to swing us into like the big aspect that it runs strong through the whole chart. So Saturn, where it is in that third house, was telling us a very early story for, I think of the birth chart as the soul syllabus, that like your soul signed up to like get a lot of information about messaging, about communication, about learning, about exchanging data. I believe wherever Saturn lands in the birth chart is a place where we seek mastery. We are inherently oriented to go become authorities in that space because that's where we want to succeed. That's where there's accomplishment to be had. That's likely where boundaries also need to be. It's where obligation might be located for us. So it's very likely that you being adultified as a 5-year-old and you were sent off to school where you had to know everything at home to make home run. But at school, you were realizing you don't know anything.
Yeah.
Right? That must have been such a juxtaposition for you. And one of the things that this Saturn activates is, of course, this early schooling. And this section of the chart where we're in, this third house awareness, if you will, runs from ages 5 to 9. So it's like elementary school. It's like a good chunk of elementary school, right? And this is the part of your chart where your Saturn is looking to discipline and work really hard and become masterful in learning. But it's also where your South Node is. So there is a big oozing. There's an oozing quality to some of this area. Like we can't help but ooze curiosity, for example, and a desire to learn and to expand. And there's also Uranus in this area of your life too, bringing shock and disruption.
Oh my God.
So we'll get to Uranus in a second because that happens like right around like 8.5 or 9. But all that to say, like there's a lot that happened in this early learning with things like elementary school, with siblings, with neighborhood kids, with neighborhoods in general. Those are all places and topical contexts that fall into this area. But again, Saturn was making an exact sextile to your Mercury. So despite there being significant obstacles, which is one of those big Saturn, pillar 10.
Oh, I know her.
Things. Mercury. We met Mercury like truly for the first time, which is so interesting because Mercury in your chart is in Virgo. We love her. We love her. And she is conjunct your ascendant. What's really interesting here is that it's conjunct your ascendant, and I'm going to break this all down in a second. It's in the 12th house. So Mercury is the planetary force of this transmission pillar. It is the talking planet. You told us you didn't talk until you were 3. You told us you were a late bloomer. I was a late talker too. How about that?
It's wild.
It's, I'd say funny, except it fucking sucks.
Yeah, it does suck.
But Mercury is that communication planet. Your Mercury is in 12th house, which belongs with pillar 12, the integration pillar. Pillar 12 has to do with Neptune. Remember Neptune?
Yeah.
Neptune is the planet of pillar 12. The 12th house is the house associated with that same kind of mystical, oceany, dreamy essence. The 12th house is this area that has to do with the ether and surrender and sacrifice and what is not. So in your early life, you hadn't met Mercury yet. It was hanging out like right at the threshold of living in a sense. It was like, I'm not fully emerged yet, thank you. But Saturn whipped its ass over to Mercury. And I was like, we got to talk. If we want to be successful here, we have to learn how to
speak up,
to become masterful. and start pulling words down from the ether, because it's clear that as a Virgo sun person and as a Virgo Mercury person, it's not like you were stupid,
No.
right? Like, no, you were
No.
watching, you were observing, you were paying very detailed attention to things you were absorbing. And that's part of how, a very important fact to talk about with Mercury, now that we're bringing Mercury on in, is that Mercury is how we process and communicate information. We talk a lot about communication when it comes to Mercury, because, like, why the hell wouldn't we?
Yeah.
But there's also such an internal process of how do you take in and sort data?
Yeah.
How do you do the logical rationalizing of things? How do you actually segment the information and put it with other, finger quotes, reflections or echoes? I'm of the belief, and I feel like maybe baby Veronica also can relate to this, but we can't ever perfectly put into words what we're actually experiencing inside.
Correct.
Something gets lost into translation. And I think that you inherently know that at like a cell, I like to call it a cellular level,
Yeah, absolutely. From
you
a
know?
very, very small age, I understood that concept.
I
Yeah.
would be willing to bet that's part of why the manifestation of the language didn't come until later. When Saturn said, we need you, Mercury, we need to start communicating if we're gonna be able to communicate. Like, basically, I know that sounds a little redundant, but it was kind of like, hey, all that observing you've been doing up in there, all that imagining, all that rich inner world that you have,
Yeah.
it is time for us to start transforming the imagination. And that's on Saturn and Scorpio. It's time for us to get serious about how to transform this into something intelligible, into something legible. I think those are good words to use here in this situation. And then one last thing before I like hand the mic off to you on this is, because there's more to say about your Mercury. Your Mercury is running a lot of things here.
Yeah, she is.
But Saturn is also at the same time, and you mentioned you didn't read until late too. Saturn activated Mercury and said, hey, buddy, hey, we gotta come on down. We gotta start processing some of this stuff in some kind of way that's gonna make it exchangeable with others. But Saturn was
Yes.
also in a waxing quincunx to your Chiron, who is in Gemini and in the ninth house. This is super relevant because Chiron in Gemini, Chiron has a lot to do with our practical real world skills. Okay. Gemini has to do with learning and reading and words and thinking and talking, right? And that opening quincunx aspect that Saturn is making, which would have come online and gone live at that formative memory we pulled at, that would have said, hey, we got to figure out the practical parts of speech. And so they all would have started to form at the same time, these templates around learning specifically.
So wild. I would say that my Oma and Opa and my mom and dad were the closest to me as a baby and as a young child. And they all have always described me as such an observer, and they just want to know what was going on in my head and my internal world. Because I was just always taking everything in and spacing out. Like, my space out eyes are legendary, apparently, in my family.
That makes a lot of sense. Your Mercury is in that 12th house. So we'll go back a little bit to, I don't want to make this just like me telling you about your astrology. Like, I want more of your story too, of course.
Yeah.
But this Mercury is really defining. And so it's going to spark more, I'm sure. Let's actually take this opportunity to kind of talk about something called a mutual reception. Okay, that's a technical astrological term, and it's something that you have quite loudly in your chart. And so a mutual reception is when a planet is in one sign and the other planet is in the first planet's sign. So they're like doing trading places, like,
Okay.
And so in your chart, you have Mercury, the communication planet, in Virgo, the sign of service and the sign of practicality. And you have Chiron, the planet of service and practicality, in Gemini, the sign of communication and learning, right? So they're hanging out in each other's spaces, and they're also in a square with one another. So they're having a big fat fucking conversation. This is probably the biggest aspect in your whole chart is involving these energies, because what that tells us and what your story is already demonstrating is that even from the earliest age, you have been in a process of practical communication, a constant kind of chronic process, which is all Virgo / Chiron, all pillar 6 words of exchanging ideas and information, Gemini and Mercury words, in the most efficient ways possible, and finding ways to not only make that shit work, but make it safe at the same time.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. It's my theme song in my head. And then constantly refining it and polishing that skill all the time.
And that's on pillar 6. Like, that is
Yeah.
part of what Chiron does. That's part of what Virgo does. And so I would love to hear a little bit more. What was that journey like, especially because so much happened so early for you?
Yes.
Which is important to note, the whole point of us being here, because like we're here to demonstrate how you've been doing the work that you do forever. Your whole life literally has
My
been
whole
your
life.
market research.
Yeah, literally, my life is my market research. Yes.
When we see that this stuff really started to cement into your consciousness at fucking grade school, it tells us like just how long you've been effectively ascending through your pattern. So I would love to hear a little bit more. I'm going to fast forward us in time a little bit.
Okay.
Here, we're still kind of in grade school, but it does look like some more important formative stuff happened right around before our 9th birthday, nearby it, at 8 years old. My eyeballs are on your Uranus in Sagittarius in the 3rd house. So we're still in that transmission, learning, communicating, echoey space. But with Uranus, this tends to be quite a surprising moment of some sort. There is potentially some sort of shock factor, a disruption. There's a Sagittarian quality. So this could also have to do with learning. This could have to do with a teacher as well. Sagittarius can sometimes manifest through maybe an eccentric teacher or something weird happening. And weird is a literal
literally weird.
Uranian, Aquarian pillar 11 word. Like,
no, but it fits.
Yeah, so it seems like you might already know exactly what
Kind of, yeah.
Okay, would you mind taking us to, like, what was going on around then? This hits both your Mercury and your Chiron, which is why I wanna hear about this, because this would have been a moment that would have really even further cemented the relationship that you have with polishing the communicative skill set.
Well, it's like I did mention I was held back in 2nd grade because I couldn't read, and that's about the same time range. And also now at this point, we're in 2nd grade, and I have 4 sisters, and we moved to Florida from California. So now we're living in Boca Raton, and I remember I had the weirdest freaking teacher. Like, I have a picture of him actually in this office because it's a class photo. But it was just so weird. And that was just a really weird school experience. Everything was so different, but in this weird parallel universe type of way. Like everything was some familiar from what I understood from school back home in California, but it was just like off. Like everything was off. Like the way the kids behaved was different, but then they were still the same type of kids. The way they dressed was different, the way they talked, what they were interested in. It was just so polar from what I've already observed and learned and taken in. So now I'm learning to read. They're catching that I'm behind. I move on to 3rd grade. I also have now my 5th sister. My 5th sister was born in Boca Raton when we lived there.
Wow. That is a lot of...
It's a lot of things.
All sisters too?
All sisters.
Wow.
All of them.
Interesting.
Yes. All girls. And the joke is always they were always trying for a boy. We were all Matthews and none of us ended up that way. But it was a weird time. And I mean, I was very independent. Again, it's weird for me to think about this because when I think about the actual age as an adult, thinking about a 9-year-old, I'm like, I could never let my 9-year-old do these things. But I mean, I was free and independent. I went to school. I came home. I left. I explored neighborhoods and towns. I was outside of the neighborhood. I was poking at alligators. I was inspecting bugs and turtles, like alone.
Theo, this is the Sagittarius, by the way. Everything you're describing is
the
1,000,000% the Sagittarius inside of the 3rd house is this exploring neighborhoods, going on adventures, being free and independent.
Totally
is
independent.
A feature of the fire energy itself. This is also a moment in time where your moon would have also been getting touched by this. So that way, this fun bits that you're describing now feel like moon kind of coming in to it to be like, look at how much fun we can have with this new way of looking at the world in the midst of it still being quite weird and strange.
Yes. So I always embrace, again, I'm observing, I'm taking notes, I'm learning. To me, it's just so interesting to experience different cultures and different ways people living. I remember going and I wonder about this today as I think about it, but did I force myself into these friends' homes, like make them take me in so I could explore them? Because that was my favorite part, just looking inside people's homes and seeing how they lived, what it smelled like, how their parents behaved, what there was expected of them. Because then I would go home and think, wow, we live so differently than everyone else. And I love that aspect. And that later on trails into everything else I learn and enjoy doing. But yeah, it was a
It's
weird
so
time and I was free.
multidimensional and multifractal. And I feel like that might be what we're pulling from what
Yeah.
was this formative experience for you, because that is one of the things about Pillar 11, which is we're talking about Uranus right now, but we brought ourselves over to the Uranian Empire. And Pillar 11 is the innovation pillar. It's Uranus, it's Aquarius, it's the 11th house, which is where your moon is located, by the way.
She's there.
And it's the waning sextile aspect. But this energy around that Pillar 11, it is about interdisciplinary thinking. It is about, I think, being able to see the fractals. I think it's about being able to get out beyond. Sagittarius has to do with going beyond what you have experienced before. But I think that the Pillar 11 and the innovation pillar is much more about getting out beyond everything
Yeah.
so you can witness it. And that is the core and the heart of Pillar 11 energy and Uranus and Aquarius and that 11th house in so many ways. It's about being able to witness the larger occurrences beyond the rules, beyond the structures that we know. I also find this really interesting because this Uranus is part of what is called a T-square. It is an aspect pattern with your Mercury and with your Chiron, which is exactly what you opened with, which is like, this is when they figured out that I didn't know how to read. This is when I actually had to learn how to do that fucking work. And it was very jarring. You didn't use that word, but that word jumps to mind.
It was jarring, especially for me because I'm always trying to be the good girl and do what is expected of me, to find out that I'm not living to unknown expectations, that everyone else in class can read and I can't. I thought no one else could read. I didn't know I was the only one who couldn't put the letters together. I was in ESL.
It's been a shock. Like, here's more of that Uranian stuff, which is in Sagittarius. So it's still, yes, it's about adventure and exploring and blah, blah, blah. But never, ever, ever sleep on the fact that Pillar 3 and Pillar 9, transmission and expansion, are both education access. The learning access of the whole zodiac. Pillar 3 is where student learner energy lives, and Pillar 9 is where learned teacher energy lives. And you have things going on in both parts of the chart across different dimensions of these consciousness pillars, right? It's super, super fucking fascinating that this would have been the moment where it's almost like your awareness came online in a totally new way, which then turns you on to the fact that, like, wait a second, there's a lot of different ways to do things, which could have been both challenging because you were already feeling challenged to process and then exchange what you were experiencing. So it added a whole new layer and a whole new dimension to that process of processing.
Can't confirm, but I'm pretty sure I did not express what was happening with me to other people, especially like my parents or teachers. I was taking in constantly what they were telling me and sharing with me. But I never voiced I couldn't read a word. I never voiced I couldn't complete a sentence. No one, I didn't say, oh, you know what? I don't know what we're doing. I always just sat there quietly and took in. And I do remember when my parents finally found out I couldn't read, they just handed me Hooked on Phonics. If you don't know, look it up.
I know.
But that was it. That was here you go. And I loved it. So I took it and I embraced it. But I can't imagine doing that and handing it to my child. And they would want me to be there and do it with them and execute it with them and tutor them. So I kind of I think I'm in my own internal world, processing everything all the time. And people are just kind of pushing me along and putting me through different experiences. And I'm just taking it all in.
That makes a lot of sense. again, you back to this Mercury Chiron connection that you have, your Virgo rising. That means Chiron rules the whole chart. That means Chiron also has dominion over your sun and over your Mercury. And your Chiron is retrograde. It's in Gemini, but it's retrograde. So to your point, it's calling a lot of fucking shots.
Yeah.
And it's already a relatively reserved energy. It's already dedicated to finding things that can be improved and fixed. And when it's retrograde, which it does often, it's a slow planet. And so it retrogrades often. But when planets are retrograde, I really do find that they skew the typical or standard or expected expressions. So like you, again, not talking until late, you not reading until late, you watching everything but not voicing a damn thing because there's so much happening internally. And because I think there was that mutual reception where yes, Chiron might rule the chart, but Mercury rules Chiron. But Chiron rules Mercury. But Mercury rules Chiron, but Chiron rules Mercury. So there was the spinning and cycling, and you add in Neptune to your sun, who your sun is also deferring to Chiron. There was a delay, but it also, I think in the early life was doing so much just gathering, gathering in as much
100%.
data as possible. And then could internalize it through its own filter. But Chiron is a planet and Virgo is a essence or a motivation where it is about doing things again and again and again and again and repeat and fix and tweak and repeat and fix and tweak and repeat and fix and tweak and repeat, right? So the processes can be a little slower, which makes sense why Chiron is a fucking slow ass motherfucker up there in the sky, right? My opinion, because those two things have been in such a dialogue, it would have put a lot of weight and responsibility and confusion up front. Plus we have the Neptune aspects in, and plus your Mercury in the 12th house is already tied into the ether. You're an oracle, essentially.
Yeah.
There's big time oracle qualities. You're tapped right on into the ether. You're tapped right on into source energy. And also there are big time demands early in life that you be really perfect and masterful at saying what the fuck you mean and doing certain types of work and being responsible and also being able to communicate big fucking concepts at the same time. And so it's, in my opinion, very likely that like that move was the disruptive quality that on one hand shook things up so significantly that it was like, it's either this or it's that. And I had to learn to just fucking do it and be pushed along through these relationships. But also, again, it was the moment where your moon trine got activated too. So there was this like, whoa, I can make things happen here. I can do things different. If this is so different, what if I'm different here too? I can maybe shine differently here.
Oh my God, yes. That's a big bell right there you just rung, because we moved a lot. And hello, I'm so little. It's so weird to think how my age was. But we moved a lot. And so we moved to Florida. We weren't there very long. And then we moved back. But every time we moved, as a small child, I was like, this is a new opportunity. I get to rebrand myself. I get to present myself in the classroom as a new way. I could even give myself a nickname. I could be a perfect student. I could be the silly student. I could be the beautiful student. Like I just would come up with these different personas and prepare myself to reintroduce myself to the world. I didn't really have those, like if I moved my son, he would be very attached to the fact that his friends are in that class. That's his teacher. Like even at the end of the year, it's like we always change teachers. I didn't care. I was like, yes, rip off the Band-Aid. Let's try something new. Let's start fresh. Let's rebuild. Let's redo it again. I can't wait to redo this right. So I loved that aspect. So that's the bell you just rung, is that, yes, I was ready to start again. I was ready to rebrand. I was ready to redo.
I fucking love that. Like you literally have been rebranding forever, like literally forever. And it's so interesting. I mean, it never ends being interesting, I think, when you can connect the lived experience to the birth chart and be like, holy shit, look what you've done with all this potential that was handed over to you. But it makes so much sense, again, that your sun is square Neptune, the oracle thing, the being able to channel thing, but also like the multi-dimensional bits of it all, being able to envision and see what is awaiting, the possibilities that await you is so big. But also moon in Leo. So there is something about like this like nurturing of identity.
Yes.
Here, right? And that moon is again connected to Uranus, and Uranus loves a shock. It loves a surprise. It loves an update. It loves to innovate. It loves a revolutionizing. right? Like it is about like, let's go further. Let's progress into the
Yeah.
next level. That's so beautiful. So now I want to like to fast forward even just a little tiny bit more. And then we're going to open this up to how you got into the business bits, and we'll kind of like move out of your childhood. We could just open it all up because all that will start
It's
to
all there.
back to the childhood stuff we're covering
Yeah.
right now. Basically, like 9 to 14, there was also a lot of stuff that happened.
Hell yeah.
And then it kind of looks like once we get into our teenager years, we're done with having our formative plot points, and then we're kind of just referencing from there. But it looks like there was a few things that happened in a relatively quick succession. Mars looks like around 10, but then it looks like Neptune and Jupiter shortly after that. So like maybe 11 and 12. There might have been like big boom, boom, booms. Would you mind telling us a little bit about that? This would have been home related stuff, like
This is wild.
family
This is
related
so
stuff.
freaking wild. Like, you don't even have to finish your sentence. I know exactly what you're talking about. I know. It's so, again, we weren't in Florida very long, and we moved again back to California. And now I have 4 sisters, not 3. So I went to Florida with 3. I came to California back with 4. And every Christmas we would go, well, Christmas Eve, we would go to my aunt's house on my mom's side or my grandparents. And Christmas Day, we would go to my dad's sister's house, which I fucking loved, because she had like this big grand house and she didn't have kids. And so everything was like, yeah, you can have whatever you want. And it was just fun. And there was this one Christmas, I think I was about 10 or 11. Yeah. And I was just sitting in her house thinking, I want to live here. Like, I want to live in this house. I want to live it so bad. And then I went home after Christmas, and I would just lay in bed and I would think about what it would be like to live in that house, in that town, in that city, and go to school there and go to the bathroom. And when I wake up in that bathroom, and that would be my room and that would be my sister's room. And I would have this vision. And then not too long later, maybe 6 months or so, my parents called me in because, again, I'm the third parent here. I'm the oldest. And they're like, we're thinking about buying Aunt Lizzie's house. How would you feel about living there? Girl, I manifested that.
I don't even mean to cut you off. I've been trying to like work on it, not interrupting people in their stories, even though I have so much that's like blaring at me. But I have to interrupt you here because like as you were describing just like sitting in her house, like immediately my light bulbs were going up. This is where she learned how to fucking manifest. This is where she learned how to manifest that she can do it.
No, it was when I acknowledged I was the one who had the power. I had been doing it my whole life. That's exactly what
these formative moments are.
It's was
when
that
you
moment.
Become aware of the energy that exists there in a unmistakably in your face format.
I couldn't deny it. It was obvious. All the sirens were going off. It was a goal at a hockey game. It was like everything. And my parents looked at me and sat me down, and I'm in their bedroom. It's private. The door's locked. My sisters aren't allowed in. It's just a conversation between the 3 adults. And I looked at them straight and I said, yeah, I made that happen. And they're like, what do you mean? I was like, I've been thinking about this for months. I've been thinking about it since Christmas. This is what I wanted. Let's do it. And so we fucking did it. And then ever since we moved to that house, yeah, things did calm down for a little while in high school. But my God, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th grade, I freaking loved it. I was living the dream of like my sitcom family life that I watched on TV. It was the house I wanted. It was stability because I had been moving so much my whole entire life. Like I had my own room, I had my own bathroom. I just felt so like Veronica. Like it just felt like me finally in my home that I needed. I still dream about that place. It was Lone Star Place, and I loved that street name. Everything about it. The whole Lone Star, like the star was my first tattoo. Like star has just been like my whole like who I am. I'm just a star, and I'm a lone person. I'm in my head. I'm in my own world. I'm comfortable in my own I always joke with you, I want a little house in the mountains by myself with no one but animals. Like that's my dream. So to me, it was just chef's kisses. I manifested it, and it was such a big moment for me. And from there, I knew what a powerful creator we all really are. And I've never let go of that.
Girl. Oh, so juicy. That is so incredible. There's so much I want to say from that story. This is why we do this shit. So I'm so glad that you brought this up because I was so excited about this aspect too. This aspect that we're specifically circling around, you named all 3 of them. So the first thing was the move. That was your Mars in Sagittarius in your 4th house getting activated. There, we're moving again across the country. We're suddenly up and we're suddenly moving and we're suddenly going. This time we're maybe a little bit more excited about it because we've done that thing before and we understand what moving is and that it is a fresh start. So we have like that backing us up here. And so we make the move. Huzzah. And then we have Neptune. Neptune exactly square your sun. The very last thing you just did as you wrapped up right there was like, what a powerful creator we all are. The sun is the planet of creation. Neptune is the planet of pulling shit out of the ether. That square is something that was learned to be constructed. And you just told us how you did it. You didn't even realize you were doing it at the time, I bet, because you were just doing it. You're just doing it.
No.
You have a rich, vibrant inner world. We've already covered that. We know your sun is square Neptune. So we know that you have an uncanny ability to imagine things that had to learn how to be controlled. Boom. And so this energy was something that you were organically kind of at that young age being like, I'm waking up and I'm visualizing, which is another pillar 12, Neptune Pisces 12th house thing. Your Mercury's in the 12th house. So you were already defaulted to learn about experiences that involve thinking in the other dimensions.
Yeah.
You know, maybe we don't know which ones exactly, but like thinking in the other dimensions. And so when you were just naturally doing that as a child because you were getting lost into your fantasies, you were also, you're tying us back to motherfucking Mercury, who is in a exact connection to your Saturn, right? Said, oh, we can build this. You want it built?
That's what you want,
That moment when they told
Yes.
you about the house was actually this really cool thing that happens for different people at different times in their life. But it was symbolically a close of a circuit. The circuit that happened when your dad lost in the ocean was closed off then and completed. Like the aspects touched. Because Neptune showing up in your chart at that age and your sun showing up at the chart at one.
I feel it. I feel exactly what you're trying to describe. That is exactly what my childhood was. I would agree that that 1 year mark to that pre-puberty mark before the move is exactly where the waves stopped feeling like I was lost in it, and I felt more grounded. Yeah, 100%.
I can't even
100%.
It's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
It's fucking crazy. And then because that Neptune is in the 4th house, and I want to remind everyone here, this wasn't just because. It wasn't just because this is just the luck of the draw. Like this is because even as a super young child, Veronica was making decisions, active decisions to explore, to get excited, to look at things as a new opportunity. Like she was choosing a perspective and an outlook that changed how she was experiencing what were very heavy themes. Like the fact that you had, 1, 2, 3, 4, you had 8 planets. I look at 12 planets in my system, right? You had 8 planets, all kind of like you had full plot developments with 8 of them before the fucking age of 13.
And listen, not all my ideas were great ideas. Some things were painful to learn. I mean, I learned not to put paper clips in the electrical outlets, like silly things like that. So like I learned not to stick your hand in the elevator when it's closing. Your hand does get stuck. Like I didn't have a problem taking a risk for the experience to learn from it. But I did, as soon as I did learn from it, I'm not going to repeat that again. So it was a constant of learning and exploring, but again, on my own. And I didn't have a problem with that risk. And it's a wild thing for you to reflect back my childhood from the astrology chart, because I'm thinking I wouldn't even put these pieces together as to who I am is because of all these things. But when you look at my chart, this is exactly why I am the way I am.
You're made for this. The chart exists outside of time. And my style of astrology, soul arc astrology, like really makes a concerted effort to understand what is literally the soul's arc. Like what were these energies? What was the full spectrum of them to begin with? Like what potentials and possibilities are we dealing with here? How did you actually experience them?
Yeah.
And then we draw those lines to understand how then did you make decisions from there? And now how do you make decisions? Because if we're getting our memos, that should be changing over time.
100%.
Like that should be maturing and growing. And so one last note on like the childhood, and then we can get into like where you went from those experiences here. But I love that you were like, and then after that, it like got much smoother. The last planet in the childhood section of the chart is your Jupiter in Capricorn in your fourth house. So that's when I had my fucking sitcom. Like
Yeah,
I
did.
had my like dream family life
Yeah.
where everything was functioning. There were opportunities to grow as a family together. The foundations must have likely gotten much more stable. Well, you actually
100%.
verbalized those words
Yeah.
exactly. Probably more rules, more boundaries. Your parents were probably like, oh, we've been parents enough times now that we think we get in the hang of it.
Yeah.
And started to like create more success. I would finger quotes this, I guess, because like, what is family successful like? But more of what a successful family, what we would have
Yeah,
imagined
again,
it to
sitcom.
be.
I felt like I was living my full house life. Like I can't think of another family sitcom, but I was like, it was what I was seeing on TV, that what I should expect to be living. And, you know, dad goes to work, mom's at home. Like we have a dog. We never had a dog before. Like my sisters were all in school. Like it felt more normal and almost surreal. But also the rule thing that you brought up is funny because yes, my parents have always been very strict. However, with that home life, it became much more stricter and it was much more rigid. And the expectation for me and my standards they had were much higher than my sisters, which also caused more friction and frustration for me because it felt like a double standard. And also I had so much freedom as a child and now I didn't have as much freedom. And it was like so much was expected of me that I didn't know. Again, wasn't prepared for so much of what they were holding and had inside of them. I wasn't prepared for any of it.
Would it be a pretty big mixed bag with that placement there? It's like, yes, it's all the good opportunity and growth and success, finger quotes success. There's the Capricorn coming through, right? But it's also an increase and an expansion of all of Capricorn things. So that goes with the Saturn Pillar 10 standards and expectations and rules and boundaries on success and what success means and you being held to that higher standard. Now, your Jupiter is in a opening sextile to your Pluto. So it was objectively, we're going to say in hindsight also because of you were able to make something fucking cool out of your life. It was helpful. It was informative, but the depth at which you have already processed how the world works was what was actually informative to the structure of expectations is what I would imagine. But there were probably a lot of moments where it might have felt overstimulating or there was an increase on why are you trying to control me now?
Well, it also felt like the rules were always changing and the goalpost was always moving. And that's for someone who's like, well, this is your standard. Why are we changing it I didn't get a memo about the change. Why is it changing now? So things like that. I mean, my parents ended up kicking me out 2 weeks before my 18th birthday. And the reason, I mean, now as an adult and a parent who has someone who's had someone at that age, I can see they had more triggers inside of them than what I actually was doing or behaving. Because I'm so hyper independent and I'm going to already try things and explore things. So what happened was I was working a job. I had a boyfriend. I was getting straight A's, but I also was flexible with my schedule at school. Like I organized my schedule so I had more freedom and I had more fun with my friends. And then my parents found out I had a credit card and it was like, I literally just got it. But it was just so triggering for them to see me so free and independent, I think, and not being able to register how we now behave.
I also wonder if that had something to do with like they had you really young.
Yeah, they did.
Or at least your mother did.
Yeah.
And so I wonder if that was what was part of what was triggering is seeing you get to an age that they finger quotes like would have lost their childhood or their freedom. Whatever that means, right?
They're very restricted, but also my father's very controlling. Like now as an adult, I can see this is unhealthy controlling behavior he has. So it was also a control thing. So I, again, am not the person you can control. And they've made me that way too. Like they nurtured that non-control feeling. So it was a lot of conflicting heads.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Like Mars is in the fourth house. The sun is square Neptune, so that can manifest certainly. And we don't need to you don't have to go into it. I feel like we've done an excellent job of demonstrating from your childhood. But I will just say that like the sun squaring, especially that tightly, like there is something around there being conditioned in a certain way. And there being maybe threats of rejection, etc., neglect, withholding, those kinds of things could easily be there. Also, Neptune is a illusionary energy. We've been talking about a lot in like the great ocean energy and the great integration and the mystic and whatever, but it's also lies.
Yeah.
It's also deceit. It's also
Yeah.
illusion. It's also like deception. So you've learned how to probably discern deception.
But if you mix that too with my Mercury and Virgo placements, you get almost, I'm good at manipulating. I'm a manipulator. But that has such a negative tone and condensation to it. Like people look at it and think, a manipulator. Like my mom would throw that out at me all the time. You're so manipulative. But the truth is, I could just see what everyone needed. And instead of having to put in more effort to mediate everyone to get on the same page, I could kind of manipulate the situation so everyone was happy in the end. So I used my powers for good where I was still punished for it when I wasn't using them for like at all. It was just like a label that I would get pushed on. You're manipulative.
Well, I would love to actually explore this a little bit more because I think I'm with you. I think that the word manipulation has a bad connotation. And yet it is something that we are all doing at all times, all the time.
And some of us better than others. Hello, it's me. I'm really good at it. I am. I know I am.
I want to take that to your chart because you learned that. And not like in a like, well, duh, obviously you learned it way. But like you spent, let's take it back to like the early childhood. You were doing nothing but watching.
Yeah.
You were doing nothing but observing. You were doing nothing but paying the fuck attention to every detail of everything and watching the equations essentially kind of play out. And so like we can call it manipulation now, I guess, if we wanted to, but it's really just strategy. I mean, that's how I feel. It's like you learned and that's a very, these pillars that you're working with, these placements, I find Virgo and the pillar 6, Chiron energy, like to be quite strategic. Saturn's quite strategic. You got Pluto at 0 degrees Scorpio. You have Saturn in Scorpio. There's the strategy energy is strategizing.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think that like where it could be looked at as manipulation, it's just
taking the data. I'm being strategic and efficient with it. And if you really took a step back, everybody, you would see it was for everyone's best interest, not just mine. Where I do feel like if you're being manipulative, it is just in your own interest and there is a more ill intent to it. And that was never my intent. I always want the greater good for everyone. Like you are a stranger, you could hate me. And I still want you to win. Like, I want you to feel good about yourself. I want you to have happiness and joy and be proud of what you are doing as a person and existing in this world. So I am not offended if someone called me manipulative because I know my true intentions and I'm just strategic and I'm efficient.
And I want to just echo that back to you as like, that's your fucking Mercury making the sextile to Saturn in Scorpio. I mean, that's your Pluto making a sextile to your Jupiter and to your Neptune. That sextile is about the data and the information, right? But Scorpio is about the knowing of the undercurrents, like the psychology, the undertones, and how this can penetrate and infiltrate, right? Like that's the scorpionic in Pillar 8 and the alchemical process. It's used for healing when it's used in high essence, right? That is part of the frequency, that is part of the alchemy pillar, but also alchemy pillar's whole thing is fucking alchemy.
Yeah.
It's fucking healing, right? So I would love for you to take us into the work you do now. How did you drop this perfectionism? How do you apply this brilliance that you have been practicing so diligently since you were a child? And also this oracle channel that you have really sharpened and really refined. How do you apply that with your clients?
Well, you know, it starts with having coworkers and a boss and a employer structure that you see is not efficient. You see is not working. You see the holes and the gaps and the nonsense that doesn't need to be there. And then realizing no one cares what you have to say, Veronica. No one cares about what you want to change or improve or streamline or make efficient. Like no one cares. So then I would quickly leave because I'm not being valued for my work. And then I would try, I'll work harder. I'll just do more. But then I see, you know, Kevin barely even remembered to put his password in or log into the computer today. And he gets paid the same amount as me. So why am I working so extra hard? Why am I putting in extra little bells and whistles into all my work? And then there's a resentment and a bitterness you have to process because you can see the balance is off in the workplaces. So then I find a new job and I do something else. And again, praised for my work and my skills and my ability. But when it comes to, well, we should do these things to enhance it, wasn't valued, wasn't appreciated. So find a new job, find a new way of delivering the information. It got to a point where it was like, you know what? No one is smarter than me, and I need to be around smarter people. I need to be around people who are actually going to help me learn and also how to share my insights and how to share my expertise. So I was constantly working and going to school, and I'm raising a baby, and I'm in this relationship, and it's just everything is a learning experience every friggin' moment. And I don't think I've had an easy day in my life ever. Like I'm waiting for the wave of easy because it's just been so hard in a way that it's constantly learning and trying again. And it's tiring. And I would say my last straw was in 2016. I left my husband. He was living a double life, which was very deceptive.
Oh my God, how oh.
Fits in my chart. I know you see it. And he was living a double life, so I left him. But now I'm a single mother of 2 this time. Now I have a preteen and a baby. And well, he's a toddler. And then I found this job, again, manifested. I knew I need more flexibility. I need more freedom, but I need more money. I need to be able to go in and out and pick up my kids from school and daycare, but then drop back into work. And I need that flexibility. You know what would be good? A personal assistant. If I was a personal assistant for someone. And I found the job. She paid me more than I even expected. She gave me benefits. I didn't even think I needed that. And it was this interesting, transcending moment between, again, I'm so powerful. I'm such a powerful creator. Like, if I stop thinking about what everyone else wants from me and what everyone else needs and start thinking about my own self, I can really change the world. So I sat with that job. I learned a lot from her. And I learned a lot of things not to do. And she quickly was going through a moment where she did need someone like me in her life because a personal assistant job didn't last very long. It became an operations manager job. She had expanded her business with me to a 6-room spa and a distributing for a product that now we have a distributing warehouse that I have to manage. So it just became such a big job. And she was struggling with alcohol. And so I ended up having to call her friends and her fiance and having an intervention with her, which was so uncomfortable and hard for me. But she was throwing away everything we were building. She was not paying her invoices. She was burning clients, but because she was drunk in the room. She was burning business deals because she was drunk on the phone. She was mixing up client names because she was intoxicated. It was becoming so bad that I had to do something. And it made me resentful and bitter towards her because we were working so hard to create something. And when I was stepping into the spotlight to cover for her and being the face and being the communicator to all the clients and professional relationships, they were praising me and asking me, how did you learn this? What else do you do? Do you do this on the side? Can you do this for me? And then they started inquiring to hire me. And I was already trying to build a side business while I was working here because, again, I needed a paycheck, but I needed freedom more. So that's why I was working while building my own business. And Taiki Digital Agency was originally called Vonix. And that was a play on my name because my little sister couldn't say Veronica. She'd say Vonka. And so I called my business Vonix. And it just eventually was like, you know what? Fuck it. I quit. I told her I quit. I packed up my office and I left. And then now I'm at home with a couple freelance clients and I'm thinking, it's so expensive to live in California. It's like I was paying so much money to live there. And my friend in Las Vegas was like, just move out here. It's so cheap. It's so affordable. I can see you and I can help with the kids. And I was like, no one else is helping me. Why not? And I went and visited her one weekend. I applied for one contract job just to see what would happen. They hired me within 2 days of being there over the weekend. They interviewed me with like 3 different people. I called my mom on a Sunday and I said, hey, do you mind packing up my apartment? I'm going to move to Vegas. And she said, when? I said, right now. I'm going to look for a house and start training this weekend. And then I'll come and pick up my stuff in a truck. And she's like, what? Veronica, what? She's like, that's what I'm going to do, woman. That's what I did. And I found a brand new house. No one had lived in it before within days. I had started that new job. I had clients under my belt now. I had more than enough to live all of a sudden. And it just was building Taiki Digital Agency from there. But I got lost in the sauce because it was about overperforming. I forgot that everything had been coming naturally to me because of my insight, because of my guidance, because of what I observe and share, rather than me performing. And so I got lost into this performance wheel for almost a decade. And here we are in 2026, and I'm finally like, no, I don't belong on this hamster wheel. What am I doing? And so then I went full-blown VD advisory group, and I let the team at Taiki Digital Agency handle all the client work on marketing and branding. And I've been building VD advisory, and it's been going amazing, better than I could have ever imagined, just because I'm leaning into my truth and who I really am here to be and who I'm supposed to serve. And it's not about overperforming. It is literally having these types of conversations and sharing and help support other people so they don't have to live these experiences like me, go through all these hard, painful moments.
100%. Oh my gosh. You're so amazing. You're so incredible. This is everything you just said is like so all over the freaking birth chart, baby.
All of it. There's not like a one straight line here. That's why the story's like,
I could pick out a million things from that story you just shared, but there were so many of them. I lost the thread on which one I was like, oh, I'll talk about that one. The beauty of that experience and the way that it shows up in your birth chart is it was an activation. Okay. It was like an activation of the Uranus and Sagittarius in the third house, which was like, let's just fucking go. Let's just fucking suddenly, abruptly have an idea and fucking go for it. And of course that does create the opposition to Chiron, the square to Mercury. But what we heard in your story just now was instead of allowing the old narratives to keep fucking going, you were able to elevate your perspective and be like, I'm the smartest motherfucker in this room. I'm the genius in the room. And that is something I really want to underline here. I'm a fellow Uranus in the third house person, and Uranus is a genius planet. Like, it is a planet that sparks insights. That's part of its whole fucking thing. So the fact that you're like, it's about sharing my insights. If Uranus in the third house is about exchanging a message. You've done so much work in your entire lifetime to be able to masterfully pinpoint and get right to the heart of something and share an insightful piece of wisdom that is rooted into adjusting and tweaking how we think, how we say, how we communicate, how we market. Because marketing to me has to do with pillar 9, so Jupiter and the 9th house and Sagittarius. Guess what? You have Jupiter in Capricorn. So business, Capricorn, expansion, Jupiter. Right? We have your Chiron, your Ceres, and your North Node are in the 9th house of growth and expansion and opportunity and marketing and publishing and disseminating and teaching and educating and broadcasting. Hello.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we have all of these Sagittarius planets. You have Uranus, you have Neptune, and you have Mars all there. And it's just so much about like, how do we go bigger? How do we expand ourselves? How can we communicate and keep refining our communication so we can keep becoming bigger fish in this ocean that you know firsthand is big and sweeping, and anything can happen in this big ocean of potential and possibility. I think that you've really been able to take these lessons that you've been cultivating over the entire course of your lifetime and apply them to other people. I'm a really big believer that once we get, especially if you're called to do soul-led work, and really follow a heart level and like inkling or calling, that it's an extension of your soul's lesson plan. It's an extension of why your soul came here. And so when you get adequate with solving certain patterns and elevating how you view certain experiences and realities that you've encountered, eventually you get good enough at it to overflow into the world around you, which is exactly what you've done with your business and with VD Advisory Group and originally with Taiki as well. And so it's just incredible because now you get to take that vision that you have applied to yourself, proven to trust in yourself, and bring that to others and say, hey, you don't need to spin out. You don't need to spiral out. I'm going to listen to you, and I'm going to make sure that we're doing everything in a way that 1, feels safe, and 2, feels structured and secure.
It's wild. It's so wild. Yeah. I would say that all my experiences, I was constantly putting out that effort, trying to put it into other people and other businesses, other schoolwork or other projects or friends, family, always projecting that type of energy for others. It wasn't until I looked in and I was alone and I was at of another bottom pitless moment where I realized no one's coming to rescue you, Veronica. You have to be this person you keep giving everyone else. Like, this has to be for you. And when I started filling that cup, then all of a sudden I had an overflow to serve others. It was then VD Advisory Group was like, fuck it, create the LLC right now. Let's do it. And I would say that I created it on, I think it was March 11th this year, and it happened to be at 11:11. And I didn't look at the clock. I didn't, like, it just happened. And when I looked, I saw the timestamp. I was like, how divine, how mother effing divine. Like, you can't tell me this is not what I'm supposed to be doing if that was the one moment I've been holding on to this idea for years and executed it. Like, it couldn't have been more perfect.
Love it when that happens. I had something similar with when I started my business. I didn't plan it. I
Just had that moment.
It kind of told me when it was born because I got the documents that like, congratulations, you have an LLC
Yeah.
now. And when I looked at the chart, it had the same rising sign as me. Its Venus was conjunct my sun. My sun was conjunct its Venus. I was like, what the fuck? Sometimes it just happens exactly the way it needs to.
Yeah.
And it really reminds you, like, there really is a divine timing to all
There
of
is.
this. Our processes, it's funny because, you know, I do not think that the birth chart is a sentence. I do not think it's a prison. I think it's a prism
Yeah, it's more of a
of
prism.
potential. And while there are definitely, I think, plot point moments that I think that are kind of like how we consciously unite with the creative force of the universe.
Mhm.
Like, there are these kind of pre-sanctioned plot points. What we make of them is what changes the reality around
Exactly.
it.
Yeah.
You
And
know?
those plot points can show up in an infinity amount of different ways. It's not going to say you're going to get pulled away from your father in the ocean in the wave. It could have been a bazillion other scenarios, but it is not, like you said, it's not a life sentence. I do think it is a prison because it's just about the way the light is reflecting through it and you get
Exactly.
your own experience. It's so fun, so wild.
And I love that you
it.
said it just like that too, because literally what is pillar 5 but the sun?
Yeah.
It's the way the light reflects through it.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
that, hello, that's
Yes.
it. Like, the sun is the light. Your consciousness, your willpower, your ability to make choices is the light.
Yeah.
It's so cool. And we are just kaleidoscopes. We are just
Mhm.
fractals, all looking and shining our light in different ways. And so it's just so cool. I could talk to you forever. I really,
I
really,
know,
really,
same.
really, really could, because there's so much I know that we didn't even get to dig into or get to touch on. But it's so clear to me that you were made for this work. Like, you
Thank you.
are just going to keep refining too. And I just want to touch back really quick and put a little blanket and a little pillow
Mm.
with the part of you that's like, it's so obnoxious to keep having to do the same things over and
Yeah.
over again. When you have a strong content of pillar 6 and the Virgo and the Chiron and the quincunxes specifically, it is true. There is a lot of trial and error and trial and error. And I feel like the sooner we can make peace
Yeah.
with the understanding that, like, yeah, there is going to be a lot of do it and do it again, and that's going to be how we become craftsmen.
Yes.
You know, like, no craftsman became a craftsman or an artisan
From one try. No, it is.
exactly.
It does take practice. It does.
Exactly. And so yes, all of your trial and errors, and with the combination of your pillar 3 energies as well, like, everything you've ever tried, every technique you ever applied has all been educational.
You know what?
And I know you know that.
Yeah. And
you know?
actually, you asked me when did I learn to lose control, like let go of control. And I didn't answer that. But that's when. It's when I've repeated the lessons so often and realized it's not a confidence issue I have. I've always been very confident in who I am and what I'm doing, even if I was wrong. It was, which is rare, by the way.
It's true. It is
rare, but
like, if
I can't
Veronica
be wrong.
doesn't have an answer, she gets one.
And it was about trusting myself. It was when I learned to trust myself, I didn't need control. I didn't need to control the situation. I didn't need to control the outcome. I didn't need to control my thoughts or my words or how I was showing up. It was a trust, and it's more of a free fall. And I would want to say I want to give credit to Abraham Hicks because that was a huge influence in my spiritual journey and learning to just go with the flow and expect the unexpected in the best possible ways.
It's the Neptune stuff again. It's the
Again.
Pillar 12 stuff
Yeah.
again. It was just going to keep circling back to that. It always will.
Yeah.
And that's actually a fun thing about that Neptune energy and your Mercury being in the 12th house, and everything it spirals and it spins and everything comes back around, which is just some of the beauty of, I think, astrology itself. It's a circle for a reason.
Yeah.
You know, like all circles just come back around. And it's just what vantage point we have at various points. Veronica, this has been absolutely incredible. Before you go, can you tell us about what you're working on right now and where we can find you? Because trust me, all you want to be on her books.
Oh my gosh, thank you. Yeah, the alignededit.veronicadietz.com is a great place to start. And if you do feel stuck in anywhere in your life, even if it's not just business, grab the free offer, Why This Feels Off. It's easy, it's free. And if it is regarding your business, there is an AI little friend I built called the Diagnostic Partner. And chat with it. Chat with him, chat with her, chat with this little AI version of me. And it will help you get clear and get some foundational ideas about what might really be going on underneath, because the symptoms are so loud and the load-bearing issues that are usually the reason we have to seek help are very quiet. And if you go to a copywriter because you think your copy on your site's bad, they're going to sell you on that because the symptom is there and it's loud and it's clear, but they're not asking you the questions about why the copy was bad in the first place. They're not going to find and diagnose what's really happening. So that's where I come in. And it's fun to have these conversations because they're so exposing about what's really been going on. And sometimes it feels like therapy, but I promise you, I'm not your therapist.
I mean, I really can confirm when I worked and booked my direction session with Veronica that first time, it was incredibly revealing and eye-opening and affirming, so deeply affirming. And I gotta tell y'all, yes, Veronica is a strategy queen. She's a discernment diva, but she also knows how to hold you through the scaries.
And there's a lot of
trust
scaries.
me, she's watched me cry a whole lot.
You're not alone. I think almost every client cries at some point with me. So that's why I'm like, it's not therapy, guys, but it will feel like you're moving things because you are. There's a big shift that happens when you have a conversation with me and you're honest.
100%. Absolutely. And Veronica, where can the people follow you? Drop your handles for us.
I'm always on Threads at the Veronica Dietz. If you find me on another platform, good luck engaging. I'm probably not really there. It's a bot. But you can also listen to my podcast if you really just want quick little voice notes that might embarrass you, make you red in the cheeks, or give you a jaw-dropping moment. The Aligned Edit with Veronica Dietz. And other than that, it's always the Tapestry. I'm always on Threads. It's our favorite place.
Me too. It's the best. It's the best. And we'll drop all of these links into our show notes. It's been such a pleasure. I love you so much. Thank you so much for doing this. Thank you for inviting and encouraging me to do this, because I really was sitting on this podcast idea for months and months and months before Veronica was like, just fucking do it.
Already, please.
We have Veronica to thank. And don't forget, y'all, stay in orbit by subscribing. Leave a comment to let me know what's hidden in your life. And of course, sprinkle some stardust by sharing this podcast with the Astro Hoes around you. You can find me at solarcastrology.com, on Threads at astro_Aries, or on Instagram at solarc_astrology. Until next time, seekers, ad astra.
Bye.